It's not just his supporters calling it Modi magic. India's prime minister putting himself front and center in the campaign and carrying Uttar Pradesh for his Hindu nationalist BJP party, a stunning win in the country's most populous state, a win that hardly seemed possible back in November, when Narendra Modi surprised even his own cabinet members when he suddenly scrapped 87% of the country's currency, part of a bid to crack down on tax cheats. Does the win in state elections prove the success of what's called demonetization, or of a charismatic politician? Is it the win of a charismatic politician whose voters willingly approve the suffering he's inflicted on them, all in the name of taking on elites and vested interests, be they bureaucrats or, as critics would quip, the same elites who support him? What could France's wannabe insurgent candidates learn from the Prime Minister of India? Today in the France 24 debate, we're taking a look at Modi magic. With us from College Park, Maryland, Anil Gupta, whose job description I'm sure that the Prime Minister of India would like: Michael Dingman Chair in Strategy, Globalization and Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland Smith School of Business. Thank you for being with us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
From Mumbai, Priyanka Chaturvedi, national spokesperson for the opposition Congress Party. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And we welcome back to the show journalist Olivier Darage from sister station Radio France International, the author in French, hot off the presses, of India, The Desire for Power. Is that how would you translate it?
Drive for Power.
The Drive for Power. Okay, there you go. The France 24 debate on Facebook and on Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. If you take the population of France and you add to it Germany, and you add to it the UK, and you add to it Poland, well, that's Uttar Pradesh, India's largest state, where the BJP has scored the biggest win in a generation. Narendra Modi's party winning nearly 40% of the vote, the BJP winning neighboring Uttarakhand, and will be in coalition governments in Goa and Manipur. The former ruling Congress Party did salvage a win in Punjab. I want to begin with you, Olivier Darage. Are you surprised in the end by this result?
Not entirely, because in the end, the results in Uttar Pradesh is about the same as what the BJP got in 2014. But the electoral system is like the British system. I mean, first past the post. And since the opposition is divided, well, with 39-40% of the votes, they got 3/4 of the seats.
3/4 of the seats. Nonetheless, it is a clear mandate, the biggest in a generation. Anil Gupta, how do you explain what happened in what's called UP?
Yes. I mean, I would pick, if I was to pick the most important factors, I would pick four. Number one, Modi himself, and that's over and beyond whether it's demonetization or other policies, other factors, because since he came to power, there has not been a single scandal certainly at the central government level. So therefore, he has changed the ethos from, let's say, corruption of the weak to focus on development. That's number one. Second, demonetization. Economically, its impact on corruption, it's a bit early to say. It seems like economically it was a short-term pain for sure, but probably will not last this quarter and beyond. But black money, we have to see. However, politically, I think demonetization clearly played very well. It turned out that I had planned already, which I did, to spend 3 weeks in Uttar Pradesh in late November, early December. So I had a chance to just walk around in the streets, talk to a lot of people. And one could see, the queues outside the bank and the ATMs. That was all true. But actually the sentiment among the people who were waiting was actually, okay, it's hurting, but it's all for the good. So I think politically it played very well, but there were other things. So for example, Mr. Modi, just in the last 2 years, the number of natural gas connections for cooking in Uttar Pradesh, I don't have the actual figures as to what they are right now. They have been increasing rapidly, which is welcomed very much by women. And final factor I would pick is that Uttar Pradesh, of course, has a huge Muslim vote. And the BJP talked about that, for instance, uniform divorce laws, that Muslim men, instead of being able to divorce by saying, divorce, divorce, divorce 3 times, that actually it should be, a uniform civil code. While naturally Muslim men, most of them probably do not like that. But from everything I understand, that Muslim women in UP very much liked that approach, that rhetoric for sure. And so there were a number, and therefore a good chunk of them voted for BJP. So it was a number of factors that helped BJP in Uttar Pradesh.
Just one more point on that. You were there, you saying late November, early December, and
Yes.
people were taking it on the chin, having to wait online outside the bank.
Yes.
Did you expect that they would still be approving that policy come January and February?
Oh, in fact, the worst pain for the people was really soon after November 8th, because the amount of new currency outside, available, the amount of, queuing in front of the ATMs, it was the worst in the first 6 weeks. And as more money came into the pipeline, things began to become easier and easier. And so that was a good time to, coincidentally, to understand what people are feeling. And obviously, it's not that it was not a hardship, but it was a little bit like, people would, the common man, common woman on the street, they are totally disgusted, if you will, by corruption. And they said, okay, I'm hurting, but the ones who are really hurting are, in fact, the people who have it, and I'm one of the have-nots. So in that sense, they welcomed it, and certainly it was politically, I think it was a masterstroke. Economically, I think it will be a plus, but as an academic, I would say I wait for empirical data, and we have to see how that plays out.
All right, we'll talk about the economic factors of it in a bit, but let's first ask Priyanka Chaturvedi about the political masterstroke, as you just heard Anil Gupta describe it. The way it was couched by Narendra Modi, it worked, it seems.
No, I would beg to differ from what Mr. Gupta is saying. I cannot, of course, take away the fact that they have won a huge mandate in Uttar Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand. What we are missing out also is that they were decisively voted out in the state of Punjab. They were Congress party, which is the opposition right now at the center, emerged as the single largest party in Goa as well as Manipur. And it is something to be seen as a vote of confidence that would be needed for the Bharatiya Janata Party in both these states to prove the majority. So that is something which is still not decided. However, personal charisma aside, personal brand building aside, when we talk about demonetization, there isn't any evidence yet as to the success story of demonetization and whether people have moved on from the entire challenges that they face post demonetization, because idea, as many said in the country, was a great idea, but implementation was quite poor. And
Priyanka, let me ask you about that, because we'll talk about whether or not it's working in practice. But you heard there Anil Gupta say that, well, people are fed up with corruption and they're willing to try something new. Do you agree with that?
No, absolutely. Anything that targets corruption is more than welcome, and everyone agrees on that. India, of course, is looking at ways to tackle corruption as a challenge. However, is demonetization the only answer to tackling corruption? Is something which evidence would prove. As of now, all evidence as far as economic growth is concerned, GDP figures are concerned, unemployment is concerned, we do not have data yet, and as to how much money, black money, has come back into the system or has been accounted for, we do not have numbers coming from the central bank as yet. So that is out there for people to judge and people to decide, and we will know the consequences of it come March end. So that is part one. The second thing that he mentions, what Mr. Gupta mentioned, was a lot of support coming from Muslim women in terms of the uniform divorce laws that the Prime Minister is suggesting to bring, or the government is planning to bring. That also I would beg to differ here, simply because Bharatiya Janata Party did not give any Muslim candidate ticket to contest on. And as of now, the Uttar Pradesh Assembly has the minimum amount of representation from Muslims in the Assembly as of now. So these are a few things that we do not have evidence for, so we cannot claim that these are reasons why people have voted in his favor. But yes, Muslim votes did get divided because of an opposition which was fragmented. So that is something that perhaps the Bharatiya Janata Party gained from Uttar Pradesh.
Olivier Daraj, in Western eyes, the idea was because there's this strong Hindu nationalist base that Muslims won't vote for Modi. But what you're hearing from our panelists is that it's not as simple as that.
Well, in India, nothing is simple to start with. There is no evidence supporting the idea that many Muslims voted for the BJP. They traditionally vote for either Congress or one of the regional parties. Maybe some did, but we don't have evidence supporting that idea as yet. That being said, I mean, there is no doubt that it was a success for the BJP, and there is no way around that.
All right, the BJP playing up this win, which in state elections that had been branded as midterms, using the American expression for the congressional elections that take place on off years from the presidential elections, then again, this coming despite demonetization.
It's a very, very awesome movement for us. We are working really hard for this movement. After a long period of time, we won this election, so it's a very important for us.
See, demonetization was popular amongst people and was the right decision from an economic point of view. So the BJP was bound to benefit from it, and that benefit has been witnessed by everyone.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, you talked about the fact that it's still not proven that demonetization works. Right now, though, obviously from what the results show, people still patient. When do you think that patience could run out if we don't see results?
So absolutely, when you do not see results and more effective policies coming into place, the Prime Minister has also put in a lot of personal capital behind the GST, the uniform tax system that we keep talking about, and something that we have been struggling to pass through our parliamentary system for years on end. Earlier we had the Bharatiya Janata Party, which was in opposition.
So it could still boomerang, but when?
We would want to wait till at least March end. We would know where we stand, and we would hope that the central bank comes forward with some data. But as of now, we do not have data, and what we are looking at are just sector growth, which has slowed down. Then there are some agencies, independent agencies, which have predicted a slowdown in GDP. But then these are numbers which are coming from independent agencies. It's not coming from the government. So we would wait for perhaps, and people of the country would perhaps want to give him the benefit of doubt for another 2-3 months to kickstart the entire anti-corruption process or transparency in governance.
Anil Gupta, you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think waiting for data to come in that would somehow prove that demonetization was not successful is, I think, wishful thinking. My own prediction is it will prove to be futile. I also would like to look at demonetization from, again, going back to corruption issue. I want to just revisit that briefly, but also in terms of its impact on digitization of financial transactions in India. But on the corruption side, that I look at, really the war against corruption as actually a long-term journey, because, there is no magic that anybody, not even President Xi, with much greater power in China, could somehow wave a magic wand and corruption will vanish in one day or even 1 year. And Mr. Modi, BJP, the government, they have been, in fact, over time, if we look at over the last 2.5 years, steadily started, in terms of amnesty programs and then increasing the penalty tax that you have to pay, now demonetization. And of course, one of the biggest domains where corruption happens, where black money gets hidden, is in real estate transactions. Already work is in progress on that. So I think when people look at demonetization and its impact on corruption, it's not really that somehow, the story would be radically different from November 7th, day before demonetization until now. But people look at it in terms of the whole sequence of policies. That's number one. Number two is that, the shift from cash cash-based transactions to digital transactions. That naturally, once again, that had been going on. And it's not something that demonetization in one day is somehow going to make cash go away, and it will all be digital transactions.
Yeah, I was going to say, because those cash transactions, so many people depend on the informal sector. How do you pay people who do labor jobs? They're used to being paid in cash. You can't overnight get everybody to use a credit card and open a bank account.
Sure, right. I completely agree that you cannot overnight do that. But the point is that if you ask two questions, number one, that at some point, whenever that is an economy where transactions are pretty much digital versus they are largely cash, is digital better? And the answer is yes, number one. Number two is that India already, of course, had been moving on that journey from cash to digital. But what I think demonetization has done is really make a step improvement. It's not a step improvement going to 100% digital, but it's a step improvement. So it accelerates that process. And if we just look at in terms of digital transactions, even for the vastly poor people, that now virtually everybody has a phone, increasingly becoming smartphones. Virtually every adult has a bank account, and then there are the UPI, the interfaces, the Paytm, private sector companies that are enabling digital transactions via phones, and so therefore the technology is already in place and moving ahead to enable even the smallest transactions by the poorest people to occur digitally. Doesn't mean that every transaction has already gone digital, no, but has demonetization made a step change in the right direction? I believe yes.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, the argument's been made that you have this economy growing at 7%. It was now or never if you wanted to have this sudden shock therapy to make the switch for India's economy from the informal to the formal sector. Your thoughts on that?
With all due respect to what Mr. Gupta is saying, while his intentions are very noble and his praise for the government is extremely noble, and of course every citizen of this country would hope that the demonetization would have a positive impact on corruption, on transparency, on digital India, etc. But statistics prove otherwise. If you look at the informal economy, the cash economy that we have in place, there are only 10% people who use digital economy as a medium of transaction. Till now, that is before demonetization. We have an economy which is informal, which adds up to almost 60% of India's economy. It has been a cash-dependent economy, so pushing the entire country without a proper framework in place to move it into digital economy and transparency in the system is, something which everyone would want and in an ideal world would happen, but is proving to be a huge challenge. Secondly, about smartphone usage that Mr. Gupta was mentioning, let me give you another statistic that only about 24% of Indians have a smartphone. They are, of course, there's a number which will increase, but as of now, when the demonetization was introduced, that is the number that we are looking at in terms of smartphone users. So it is a huge challenge that you have in front of you, and you cannot wish that away as much as the intent might be good. So having said that, all I would want to mention here is in terms of impact on the economy, and I would also want to go back to Uttar Pradesh. I have also traveled to UP. I was campaigning for my party in Uttar Pradesh, and I met so many weavers, so many people who were employed in manufacturing and in trade industry, where they feel that it has impacted them largely, and they were not too happy with the entire demonetization process, but yet was supporting Mr. Modi simply because they believe that it would serve them a long-term purpose. So as of now, there is a huge area which has still not been answered by the government. Intention is noble, but in terms of implementation and results...
Intentions are noble, but the implementation still be done. We're going to have to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching the France 24 debate.